At the start of Randy Orton's Evolution of a Predator documentary, the Viper peered down at 3 pairs of near-identical trunks ahead of his Elimination Chamber 2011 bout. Choosing between the washed-out blue ones, a black and red, and a faded green offering, he proved his gear wasn't overly important to him. Thankfully, not all superstars share Orton's aesthetic disinterest. Several performers over the years have attached symbolism or gravitas to their attire selection ahead of a big match, television debut, or merely a bout of heightened personal significance. Let's have a look at some. I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are 10 surprising hidden meanings behind famous wrestling attires. Number 10. Randy Savage. Preparing to win his second WWE Championship precisely a year after he was retired by the Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man Randy Savage foreshadowed his glorious victory over Ric Flair by sporting more gold than the title belt itself. It had been 4 years since Randy was entrusted with the company's top title, and just like in 1988, it came as Hulk Hogan prepared to temporarily exit the company. The sight of Macho Man and Elizabeth's glittering title celebration following the contest lived long in the memory and marked the final WWE pay-per-view in which they'd share the screen. Number 9. Bret Hart. Though tethered to pink and black variations for the entirety of his career, Bret Hart found a unique way of developing new twists on familiar styles throughout his career. However, regardless of the spin he'd occasionally feature, one element of the design became a signature stamp. Starting first with 1, then working gradually up to 4, Bret would always sport stars or hearts on various parts of his lower half in tribute to Jade, Dallas, Alexandra, and Blade, his 4 children with first wife Julie. Though his marriage began to break down in 1998, he kept the touching tribute to his family right through to his final WCW days in early 2000. Number 8. Ric Flair. Resplendent as always on entry, whenever the Nature Boy donned a red attire, he'd more often than not suffer a major defeat, most notably during his WWE tenure. As a 2-time champion in 1992, he would ultimately surrender both prizes, first to Macho Man Randy Savage and later to Bret Hart, be eliminated from the 1993 Royal Rumble, and then eradicated from WWE completely in a loss to Mr. Perfect, still sporting the same red trunks. Hulk Hogan chased him temporarily out of WCW after his Halloween Havoc 1994 steel cage match victory. Then, nearly a decade later, he became the 10th performer to fail at toppling The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak, still wearing the red trunks. He was only able to partially break the hex 2 years later in a multi-man match won by Evolution after Randy Orton pinned Mick Foley. Number 7. Mick Foley. When Mick Foley allowed himself to take a huge plunge through the Hell in a Cell structure at February 2000's No Way Out pay-per-view, he did so with the genuine intention of retiring as the stipulation had required. However, a definitely the last time, no really this is it return at WrestleMania a month later was simply too good to refuse. As a concession to the retirement, he elected to neglect his alter egos Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Dude Love to wrestle simply as Mick Foley. Emerging in blue flannel instead of his traditional red, Foley avoided the typical Wanted Dead t-shirt for an ultra-rare Forever Cactus Jack one, showing his 3 personas merged together one more time as he prepared to say goodbye. Number 6. The Undertaker. WrestleMania 13 had already taken its place in wrestling history when The Undertaker emerged for his main event WWE title match against Psycho Sid. Nothing was capable of topping Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin's I Quit bloodbath, but the Dead Man and Sid were never put in the position to. As if to further represent his existing loyalty, longevity, and dedication to the cause, The Undertaker adorned the very threads he'd worn when he last lifted the title at Survivor Series 91. A one-night return to his original Man from the Dark Side veneer made it feel a lot more special. Number 5. Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks and Bayley transformed the growing perceptions of women's wrestling in 2015 when their semi-main event match at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn surpassed even lofty expectations. It was inarguably the best women's match in company history and rightfully took its place for overall match of the year in a period chock full of instant classics. Following their rematch as the main event of October's TakeOver Respect, Sasha revealed that her chosen color scheme for the contest not only matched exactly what she wore in her first match, but also marked the arrival of her boss persona in 2013. Number 4. Bayley. Preparing for what proved to be her NXT swan song, Bayley took to the ring against Asuka in a final effort to reclaim her precious NXT Women's title at TakeOver Brooklyn 2. The Empress of Tomorrow's fierce onslaught was ultimately too great a hurdle for Bayley to overcome, but somewhat knowingly, her outfit reflected her journey to that point. In tribute to Dusty Rhodes, exactly as she had done the previous year, her wrist support was adorned with polka dots, this time in scheme with her blue and white attire rather than his traditional black and yellow. Her headband, as she would highlight to Banks, was repurposed from Sasha's actual ring gear from their legendary takeover performance. Number 3. Sasha Banks and Bayley. The final chapter of the Banks-Bayley Clothing Chronicles came at Battleground 2016 in a match against Charlotte and Dana Brooke, where the boss promised a mystery partner. Even if it was only temporary, still having the pesky Asuka to deal with in NXT, there was again much thought placed on the wardrobe for the night that played into the idea that Banks really had contacted her former rival asking for help. Both decked out in blue, pink and yellow, the two genuinely looked like a real tag team, expressing their unity and mutual respect in colours for the scant few that still had no idea of their storied past. Number 2. CM Punk. In 1993, Bret Hart wore a hot pink variation of his gear for what was at the time the biggest singles match of his career. The controversial evening ultimately belonged to a returning Hulk Hogan, though, who flattened Yokozuna in seconds after the sumo star had cheaply dethroned Bret. Bret suffered these patterns of disrespect by Vince McMahon in virtually every one of his WWE title reigns, and it was this mindset CM Punk shared in 2012 as he continued on his own lengthy title pursuit in spite of his slide down the card in favour of John Cena matches or contests deemed more important. Bret's 1990s plight mirrored the harsh reality of Punk's actual situation, and the gear the Voice of the Voiceless sported for his title match at SummerSlam served as a subtle callback to another overlooked technician beloved by millions. Number 1. Shawn Michaels. Few, if any, were as adept as Shawn Michaels for capturing the minutiae of what could make a professional wrestling match a thing of true artistic beauty. Exactly a year before he'd retire, he'd express his art with The Undertaker in a WrestleMania 25 clash some consider still to be the finest match in company history. As he collected his Match of the Year Slammy that winter, something cracked inside Shawn about his WrestleMania defeat. About to leave, he hesitated, returned, and glowered willfully down the lens of the camera and said he knew he could beat Taker given one more chance. In order to get there, he'd first have to win the Royal Rumble, and obsessed with winning, he ran through the field, even taking out Triple H in an effort to succeed. Sure enough, for the only other time in his career, he wore the tights he'd lost in 1 year earlier.
The killer in you is the power in me. Pleased to meet you, so good to see. The killer in you will keep me alive. Back to back, self-sacrifice.
Well, would you look at that? You got all the way to the end of the video and your mother said you'd amount to nothing. What are the chances? While you're here, why not watch one of our other many, possibly quite good channels, or watch another video which will be largely in the same vein as the quality content you've just endured. Go on then.